Hello everybody and welcome back to another video. So today I want to talk about the events at last night's Republican debate. You know, I definitely did watch all of it. I missed the first part originally and then I went back and watched it again just because, I want to make sure I get all the context and so that I can really see who really performed well, who shot above where I thought they were going to do, and who, might not be on the stage next time. So, first off, I think that we should start with the person at the center of the stage, Ron DeSantis, currently polling in second, of course. Um, he didn't do anything that really jumped off the page to me. He made some points, obviously. I think his specific points about Israel and how he sent flights from Florida to get people out and evacuated. Obviously, that got a lot of applause. I think that is going to be a pretty solid political move for him. But really, I don't really see him being the nominee. Just the general way his campaign has gone. Nothing in this debate, like I said, really jumped off the page from him. There were a couple times where he was like, "I'm gonna take XYZ and I'm gonna take it, I'm gonna rip it up, and I'm gonna throw it in the trash." And, whenever you start saying the same kind of things on the debate stage, I can definitely see where people might be like, okay, someone kind of, that they kind of planned that before a little bit, at least that wording of it or whatever you want to call it. I think there were two candidates who probably helped themselves with this debate. Nikki Haley, I think, is the clear winner of the debate if you had to make one. But obviously, I don't think it was just her that had a high level performance. Um, I think that her message about specifically abortion will probably resonate, especially with the level of power that has been given back to the states, to the citizens. In Ohio, for example, of course, they actually made it a constitutional amendment in their state to keep abortion access. And I think her position of, obviously she's like, we can't have any federal ban. And states are going to have these referendums, and we just need to not be divided by it. Um, Obviously people should go and make their voice heard, but she seemed to be at least fine with states um, not going in her direction on that issue. Um, Especially with the fact that greater than 50% of Americans think that there should be some level of abortion access. I think that hard line stance won't play as well to try to court moderate voters. Um, and I think obviously her foreign policy experience could play well, especially with the current situations around the world. Israel, Ukraine, growing tensions with China, of course. China, always a pretty big debate topic in these Republican debates, of course. Um, and I think that that foreign policy expertise could be appealing to voters. And then the other candidate who I thought may have raised their profile a little bit for sure was Vivek Rawamzi. Um, Obviously, he made some headlines before. Um, he, in his original debate, he catapulted all the way up to third place in the polls, given it was around 8%. And he's been on the decline a little bit since then. He's really just, in my opinion, I see him as trying to appeal to the same voters that Trump currently has. And as long as Trump's in the race, I can see a lot of voters being like, why would I vote for Vivek when I can just vote for Trump? And have a similar, obviously, campaigning style, similar values, similar in a lot of different ways. The amount of times that Vivek said we need a CEO in the White House, um, obviously, that kind of plays into that business acumen, and just the fact that he is really the one that I feel is taking the most attacks at other people, which are inevitable in the debates themselves. But the fact that he's kind of taking that role and almost being, he's just similar to Trump. And obviously, without Trump standing there on the debate stage, I think that he's kind of trying to fill that lane of voters. Whereas I don't think Nikki Haley is aiming for those voters. Obviously, you want to aim for all voters. But I feel in the lanes within the Republican Party, Vivek is very much more towards the hardcore Trump support, whereas Haley is more of the moderate kind of can gain that independent voters, those independent voters to try to come back to the Republican campaigns. Um, Tim Scott, I feel like, is probably the candidate who I think the least of that was on the debate stage, not as a person or anything in that sense, in the sense that I don't know how much progress or how many states he really is going to win. Um, Obviously, him and Nikki Haley are both from South Carolina. Um, I see I see him trying to straddle that line between the the more hardcore base and the more moderate base. The problem whenever you're trying to play that position, as you saw with Elizabeth Warren in 2020 as an example, um, you really aren't going to. I've I've seen that you don't really see that much support whenever you're just trying to balance in the middle. Um, if you could really try to unite that base, obviously that's what you're trying to do. But I don't really see Tim Scott doing that effectively. And I think there's just a lot of overlap between his points and Christie, or his points and DeSantis, um, and Nikki Haley on some issues. Like, I don't see what is making Tim Scott stand out. He's has his 10 million new jobs with 5% growth economic plan. I just don't see that. I don't see those specifics, and you can't just the president can't just be like, well, we're going to make tons of new jobs and have 5% growth. That's just not how the economy works. There's a lot more factors than what just the president can do. So I don't really see Tim Scott's campaign taking off very much, in my opinion. Chris Christie, I feel like, is also kind of in the same boat, although I think he's in a better position than Tim Scott. I feel like um, Chris Christie has more unique positions um, that kind of separate him. Obviously, I would consider him the most anti Trump of any of these candidates, which probably is not a good thing in the Republican Party. When 58% currently is the polling aggregate for Donald Trump's primary voting. So the fact that he's the most vocally anti Trump probably has and likely will continue to hurt his campaign and probably put a ceiling on how long he's going to be in it. At the end of the day, all of these five candidates, are trying to chase Trump because you're going to have to make it through him to get the nomination. he has a majority of voters in the current polls as we're seeing them right now. So obviously, you have to peel away some of that support if you are going to win. And I don't see, while it's not impossible, I see that there's really a hesitancy to take on Trump directly within the party. And reasonably so. Like I said, Chris Christie is the most vocally anti Trump, and I'm imagining that absolutely has hurt his campaign within the Republican Party to try to get the nomination from the same people who nominated Trump twice. I think that other candidates are being a lot more careful with their language and how they're trying to present themselves as an alternative. And I think one framing that people were using was that, yes, Trump was the correct president at the time, but I don't think that he's the right candidate now. And whether you agree with that or not is all personal opinion, of course. But I think that they need to do a better job of actually trying to take him on if truly these candidates want to get the nomination. You're going to have to get a little bit down and dirty. That's just the nature of the game. I would say the same thing if there were Democratic debates right now, actually, and RFK and Marianne Williamson and whoever were all really hesitant to say anything bad about Biden, I would say, look, you have to beat this person. You're going to have to go after them. And I don't see enough of that currently from the other Republican candidates to convince me that Trump is going anywhere. So ultimately, I think that this raises Nikki Haley's profile again. DeSantis kind of maintains whatever he had. I really don't see him getting the nomination despite the fact he's in second. I really think he missed his chance. He was polling at 30 some percent for a while, and Trump was coming down. That's when he had to announce. And he didn't, and his campaign has suffered because of that. So, thank you all for watching this video. Let me know what you thought about the debate, which candidates you thought really made an impact or showed out a lot more impressively than you thought, and which candidates you don't expect to see on the debate stage again. Thank you all once again for watching, and I will see you all in the next video.